few years ago, I gave a presentation on leadership to an audience of about 1,000 people. And when I first created the speech, I genuinely thought it was solid. My slides were clean, my research was strong. I knew my material inside and out. I practiced at home, I practiced in front of friends. I was totally prepared. And when I finished presenting the speech, people nodded, they smiled. Some of them even came up to me and said, "That was great." But if I'm being honest, I didn't really get that feeling you get when you just know that you've done something really, really well. And we all know that feeling because nothing really changed. No decisions were made. No behavior shifted after the presentation. There was no real action that followed that. And so that experience sent me down a path. I started studying what actually makes a presentation powerful. What separates a good talk from one that truly moves people. And I realized something that completely changed how I approach every keynote, every workshop, and every classroom lecture that I give. A rock-solid presentation isn't about having great information. It's about having the right structure. And the structure that transformed how I build and deliver presentations is called Monroe's motivated sequence. If you've ever felt like your presentations are clear but not compelling, informative but not really influential, this is why. You may be delivering content, but you're not guiding psychology. A rock-solid presentation does 5 things in order. It captures attention, it establishes a real need, it offers a satisfying solution, it helps the audience visualize the outcome, and then it directs them toward clear action. When you build your presentation in that sequence, you stop hoping people will respond and you start leading them there. So let's talk about how to actually create your presentation using this framework. The first step in building a great presentation is attention. When you design your opening, don't start with logistics. Don't start with, "Today I'm going to talk about." Start with disruption. Start with tension. Ask yourself, what is the uncomfortable truth that my audience needs to hear first? For example, if I were speaking to dental practice owners about leadership, I wouldn't open with, "Today I'm going to teach you about communication strategies." I would say, last year, dental practices lost thousands of dollars, not because of clinical mistakes, but because of team miscommunication. That line sets the tone. It signals stakes. A rock-solid presentation earns attention. It doesn't assume it. The second step is need, and this is where most presenters rush. It's also the most important step. If your audience doesn't feel the problem, they won't care about your solution. So when you're planning your presentation, ask yourself, what is the real cost of this issue? It may sound something like this. Turnover isn't random. Burnout isn't accidental. Most teams don't lack talent, they lack structure. Most practices don't have a communication system. They have personalities trying to coexist. Different work styles, different expectations, no shared language, no clarity. The stress builds, meetings get tense, feedback feels personal, resentment grows quietly. Eventually, someone leaves and leadership says, "We didn't see this coming." When you deliver this section, you slow down. You let it land. This is where your audience sees themselves. And once they recognize the cost of staying the same, they become ready for change. The third step is satisfaction. Now and only now do you introduce your solution. A powerful presentation doesn't overwhelm people with 10 ideas. It presents one clear pathway forward. This part of the speech may sound like this. Maybe that's implementing structured hiring systems. Maybe it's introducing shared behavioral language, or maybe it's defining expectations clearly instead of assuming alignment. So in your slides, this is where you simplify. In your delivery, this is where your confidence rises. You're not suggesting, you're guiding. The fourth step is visualization. This is where you elevate from logical to emotional. When you build this section, you intentionally create contrast. Paint the future if they adopt the solution. Calm culture, clear roles, confident leadership, strong retention. Then briefly paint the future if nothing changes. Another resignation, another expensive hiring cycle, another year of frustration. Humans act based on imagined futures. A A rock-solid presentation makes the future vivid. And finally, the last step is action. This is where many strong presentations collapse. They end with, "Thank you." A rock-solid presentation ends with direction. When you design your closing slides, ask yourself, what exactly do I want them to do next? Audit your communication systems this week. Define expectations with your team. Schedule a strategy call. Implement one structured change. Specific action converts inspiration into movement. Now let me show you what this sounds like when it's delivered as one cohesive presentation. Last year, dental practices lost thousands of dollars, not because of clinical mistakes, but because of team miscommunication. Turnover isn't random, burnout isn't accidental. Most practices don't lack talent, they lack structure. Without a communication system, personalities collide, expectations blur, and culture slowly erodes. Stress builds quietly. Meetings grow tense, resentment forms, and eventually someone walks away and leadership says, "We didn't see this coming." But what if a problem isn't your people? It's your process. When practices implement structured hiring systems, define behavioral expectations, and create a shared communication language, something shifts. Conflict decreases, alignment increases, retention improves. Imagine walking into your practice and feeling calm instead of tension. Imagine a team that communicates clearly, patients who sense that stability, and leadership that feels confident instead of reactive. Or imagine another year of costly turnover and emotional exhaustion. If you're serious about building a team that stays, start by auditing your communication systems this week. And if you want guidance building a culture-first framework, let's talk. That is the difference that structure makes. Same topic, same speaker, different architecture, completely different impact. If you want to create rock-solid presentations, don't just ask, "What do I want to say?" Ask, "In what order does my audience need to experience this?" Because influence isn't just about charisma, it's about sequencing. When you understand that, your delivery becomes more confident, your message becomes more persuasive, and your presentations stop being informational. They start being transformational. If this video helped you, I'd love for you to subscribe or share it with someone who wants to communicate clearly, lead intentionally, and influence ethically. I hope to see you in my next video.